Dark. What do you have for us?
Wow. You know, you may have had a bog standard rom-com, but what about a bog standard rom-com?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Are we just like
Um,
doing a boring fight all the way down? It's turtles all the way down now.
I mean,
God damn
I
it!
won for sure. Like I won 100%. Like right. So I'm doing Seihantai na Kimi to Boku. You and I are
Mhm.
polar opposites. Um, this is a manga original. This is being done by Lapin Track. The author, I believe this is their first series in general.
Okay.
Which is not terrible, I guess, for a series. But anyway, you're not gonna believe this. This is a rom com, and it's around our two main characters of Miyu Suzuki, who's like a bubbly Gyaru ish type character. She is the girl with the pink hair and fangs, and our male character, Yusuke Tani. And that's kind of it. That's kind of really all I need to know. Tani is
Are
like
there
a
any? Okay, so
reserved and quiet
mainly just this
character.
couple? Is it just mainly this couple, or is it a bunch of other couples?
So at least I watched up to episode 5 through episode 5, and so far it really has
Okay.
only been this couple.
Oh
I
no.
am unsure as to whether or not any of the others will like hook up or anything, because like other characters are like talking about relationships and stuff, but none of them have really like displayed any interest in each other yet. There's also a love triangle, which is like kind of nice, at least so far. Um, the main thing is just surrounding Miyu being the bubbly-ish, like the bubbly Gyaru-ish character, and then Tani being the reserved, matter-of-fact guy. There's really no
So is
further
this like
backstory to
shit?
why
Is this like banter?
Suzuki like wants to, huh?
Is this just like banter back and forth? Is that it? It's like one of those series where it's like the like what was the shogi
Yeah,
one? That was like the with the girl and the you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like
yeah.
the
It's really
same series as like
not.
Usai Sentai so
There's
on.
really
Yeah.
no. It's primarily throwing right into the dating sort of thing right away because it doesn't it cuts out the will they won't the will they won't they like it finishes that in the first episode, so I'll give it props for that, where it immediately
Okay.
has Suzuki making a move on Tani and then them going home together and dating by the second episode. The main crux winds up being a lot of the learning that's coming with that between the two of them, with Suzuki trying to not be so one-sided in it and Tani trying to not match her energy but to be a like a partner to her in
Less
general.
autistic.
Huh. Yeah, pretty much. Like
To be less autistic.
yeah. Like his a lot of his stuff is like, he gets a lot of it, but he just doesn't really, he's kind of along for the ride anyway, which is causing, at least in one of the episodes, is like something that Suzuki has to get over because she's like, "Oh, I'm kind of dragging you around everywhere." And his perspective is, "Well, I could have gone and done all these things myself anyway, but obviously, doing with you, I'm actually having fun, so I don't care." I don't particularly mind being dragged around. And
So can I
that's the
ask you
thing. Like,
something?
there's
What
really
is the
there's really no drama. It is primarily just that, and then comedic beats with them, with snappier dialogue, them going back and forth a little bit, and then other characters sort of butting in, whether it be to support them, whether it be to sort of dissect some of their situations that are going on, and so on and so forth.
Can I ask a question? So what is so you know how usually, right? There's this I mean, even in like the lighter series, like Uzai Senpai or Komi-san or whatever, right? But in a lot of these like kind of similar setups for not necessarily for Shonen magazine, but in shoujo magazine series, right? And others, there's usually this sort of conflict, right? And not direct conflict necessarily, but like a personality based conflict, something that creates conflict between, say, the main protagonist and then the main heroine, right? Um, is there anything that creates some sort of conflict between the two, or no?
No, not really. So the main, realistically, the main conflict winds up usually being in some sort of internal turmoil. Like I said, with Suzuki thinking that she's just dragging around, and then Tani trying to, have more of a presence really in their relationship more than anything. But all the,
Oh,
I think one of the big issues is that Tani still winds up being a pretty lackluster character, in my opinion. Suzuki it's the pretty standard dynamic now of being the Gyaru-ish bubbly character, but her um her still, it making it a point to say that this is her putting on airs, right? To act this way. Or not really act this way, but
hey,
to or
she's
rather
actually shy
exhausting
slash
for her to
fragile.
no. But it does
Okay.
exhaust her either way. Like her basically
Oh.
it's her own personality exhausting her. And then just
Oh,
having
I
her
get.
be
Yeah.
more
Okay. I see.
so and having her be more so of a dynamic character, in her own quiet moments she'll be way more like laid back, right? And not energetic, et cetera, et cetera. Like we've seen these types of things before. But the problem that I have is more so like Tani really doesn't have anything like that. Like he kind of is like what you get. There's really only one moment that
Right.
I've enjoyed his character in so far has been I forget what they were doing, but they went to the park and it's pretty early on. I think it's like episode 2 or 3 or something, and they go to Google something and he goes to Google on like use Google on his phone and she's looking over his shoulder because they're trying to look something up. And like the two top like history things are I forget what it was, but it was basically stuff of like how do I be a better like a better partner to my girlfriend, like things like that, like basically trying to look up stuff like that,
Mhm.
and then him getting all flustered because she saw that. um and so that's kind of been like one of the only parts so far where like his character has actually had any sort of dynamic nature to it remotely in like that scene and getting flustered in the follow up. So that's kind of one of the bigger issues in this. I think a lot of the comedy and a lot of the scenarios are very, very standard too. Because, like I said, even the thing I just described is very standard, right? Um,
I feel like so would it be interesting is like because that's sort of like the whole like get excuse me the ghetto aspect at least I've heard similar things in real life as well, right? Obviously we know examples of that, but I once read this one thread online where they were talking about how a lot of firefighters, for instance, are like type A people, right? They're kind of like go-getters and stuff like that. um and so if you end up having kind of a relationship with a firefighter, what happens is like if it's if they end up having a relationship with a quiet person, kind of the firefighter, uh, um, I don't want to say use, but it's like kind of relies on their significant other who's quieter to kind of have a resting spot, a kind of a reprieve, right, from all of the hard stuff, right, they've seen while doing firefighting. And so that's like a sort of similar variant in this story. But I feel like it would have been interesting if the main character, right, Tani, Tanyusuke, was kind of while looking at the Gyaru, Suzuki Miyu, both her active side and her quieter side, ended up gaining more and more of like an appreciation of like who she was and like the layers, right?
Well, so I think he
Does that happen?
is. It seems like he
Uh-huh.
is because there are a lot of back and forths where he learns certain things, like different perspective, like a different perspective, with through certain scenarios. But again, like the problem that I have is that his character itself is just not particularly interesting or dynamic. Not to say that Suzuki's
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah. Because
particularly
it's literally
amazing
just
either.
quiet guy.
Yeah, not to say Suzuki's is particularly amazing either, because this is also a character we've seen before, even with the gimmick of, you know, this personality being something that's put on and requires energy in and of itself to perform, basically.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't, like I said, that to me doesn't really capture me that much. And then the comedic bits don't really do a ton either, right? They don't. There's not a lot really going on with them. There was that park one. There's like scenes where, you know, Suzuki is like trying to reserve herself while she's eating and stuff like that when she doesn't want to, and she wants to like pig out in front of him. But so it's pretty standard. I think the main thing, and I guess I can wrap up more so the character dynamics there, right? Because you're really not gleaning a whole lot. The supporting cast is pretty okay, like pretty fun. You know, you have some different characters in there. They're also not anything crazy to write home about. Some of the dialogue between them is fine. It's okay. It's not, again, nothing crazy, but it is written at least well. It does flow naturally. It does sound pretty good. There's nothing that's overly melodramatic or anything going on, which is nice. People kind of talk to
Uh-huh.
each other in this like they're humans, which is more than you can say about some series, at least. But I think the series is carried primarily based on her style, and it's, what would you call it? Like there are like way more like cartoony parts to this series. Um, there are a lot of cuts where Suzuki, in particular, turned to like a, what would you call it? Like a usually like a panda-ish, yeah, like a panda type like crude drawing thing, and I think it's supposed to be based on her buns and stuff like that, and also the fact that she likes pandas. Mm, But ultimately, I think that's what a lot of it's carried with, especially the comedy, where it is a lot of cuts to that like cartoonish art style of her uh, that it tries to rely on,
So the
which,
character
you know,
design
is
mainly.
okay. Yeah, it's a lot based on her character design, and especially in this now, her performance with from Sayumi Suzushiro. So I think that that's kind of like really,
Okay.
really carrying it. It's not to say it's like particularly like terrible, um, otherwise, but I think without that, this would be kind of dire. I'll just screen cap a couple things. I'll put them in the DM so you know. It's like her fangs too are like very pronounced that they show through as well. With
So, other than like the dialogue with the Gyaru and everything else, does it feel kind of sluggish? Is that like just because like there's not that much stuff in it, right? Does the pace feel sluggish or
yeah, I feel
is
like
it
the
okay?
pacing. I feel like the pacing is fine just because of how much of Suzuki and Tanya are on screen and interacting, and how much they're doing, and how many characters they're talking to. They don't really let it breathe too much with a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of like another one of the highlights of it, is that the pacing is at least very, very fast. It doesn't feel particularly slow in that regard. But again, it's just that it's not really anything you haven't seen before, right? especially with these character dynamics. So that's kind of like the unfortunate aspect. The something that I would have liked, or not even something I would like, but I think something that's necessary with a scene like this, or a series like this, is more so um something along the lines of you would need for me it's like you need a lot of humor that's bordering on the absurdity of or the more elaborate bits in why can't I remember the name of the series? It's the
What's the series?
Kaguya-sama. There you go, Kaguya-sama. Like I think you
Oh,
need bits
Kaguya-sama.
that
Okay.
are yeah. I think you need bits that are at least elaborate as that, right? Because even even taking a series like Kaguya-sama, I think that series gets too much credit over the years, right? I do enjoy that series quite a lot, but
Uh-huh.
as a romance series, purely romance elements of it, the romance elements of that series are fucking terrible, right? Like they're not,
Oh yeah, yeah, sure.
they're like fucking nothing. Like it's literally
It's mainly the comedy series.
yeah, it's mainly to be used for comedy, right? And the character dynamics are fun, and the romance that comes out of that is like it's fun and it's funny, but it's not like the romantic developments. You're like, oh my god, I'm on like the edge of my seat, right? And considering that this series is so heavy on
Yeah, yeah.
comedic tone, I would want something more like that, but you really don't get bits like that, right? So it's relying way more on the character designs and the character interactions and like the voice work. I feel like this would be a
Interesting.
very and actually this is probably why that the manga is rated like a pretty much like a full point, I think, lower than the anime. It's literally because when you don't have the transitions between these styles like this, you don't have the voice work and the character acting, the character interactions like that. You don't really have a whole lot. Like the art style might be cute, it might be fun, but at the end of the day, the story and the romantic developments aren't exactly anything that you're gonna be like, wow, I really need to, tell others about this series or something like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you go to like a collab cafe, or like if you've seen those like vlogs where it's like they go to like an anime cafe or like a collab whatever place, and there's this part of a like part of the room has like all the characters set up as like those like cardboard stands, right? And you can take a photo with them. It kind of feels like you're describing that, where you're like, oh, the setup is like here, and like you have the character designs, and they're kind of like walking around and talking and doing chibi forms, like deformed whatever versions, and all this stuff, right? And that's like cute here and there, but there's no like proper bigger story here. So you're
Yeah.
just like, I guess that's is it.
Yeah, and I really genuinely think that if um if Tani-kun was more of a character to play off of and more of a personality and a dynamic character, this would be a much different story. I think you would I would be looking at it, or rather
Yeah.
the comedic moments itself would lead to something more naturally in the vein of Kaguya or something like that. Whether or not they're as absurd, at the very least, you'd have
Mhm.
two characters much better playing off each other and creating comedic elements that way
Yeah.
and comedic moments.
Yeah. The issue is it's also because the main character, like yeah, sure, you have like the quiet, gentle dude, like that's a thing that's been played throughout anime tropes since forever, right? But the issue is you can't just be like, yeah, I'm quiet, and then period, right? That's you got to have that like kind of like spark. So
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you had in Kaguya-sama, you had I don't even remember anyone's names, but you had the male lead in that where he used to be the the cool guy, but then he's way more eccentric. He's constantly worried about his grades and stuff like that. But then you even look at a series like Karen-san, right, where both characters are very aloof, stoic characters, but then,
Yes.
or at least on the surface, and then emotionally, they're extremely dynamic, right? And that's like where a lot of the comedy comes through. They're really eccentric and really weird.
Yeah.
Again, like Tani just does not have that. Like he just does not have a character, and it kind of shows through in a lot of the way the show is paced out as well. Where, like, I did say, like, obviously Tani and Suzuki do get a lot of screen time, but Suzuki gets more screen time than him, and there's really not much of a reciprocation because you kind of can't, because he doesn't have anything to reciprocate when he's alone and when it's him and other
Right.
characters. Like he does have moments with other characters, but it's not nearly as dynamic as when Suzuki has them. But that's kind of like, I would say, my biggest gripes with the series. Kind of like the biggest.
And the unfortunate part is that
Detractor.
it is a very major portion of the story, because it can't just be a one-sided, like, oh, the Gyaru is, going through like the 50 stages of, a relationship or whatever, right? It has to be the other
Yeah, and
side
then the
has
guy
to,
is just
the main,
there, and it's
especially
like,
since as the main
okay.
character has to do something as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and while on paper, on paper, he technically is doing stuff. He technically does sometimes have internal monologues, but it's really, again, there's really like no dynamic nature to him right now, right? Like what you see is what you get. Like he's cool and aloof in his head. He's cool and aloof, just in general, which is, well, I guess not aloof, but you get what I mean. Very subdued. Which, yeah, I don't know. I would just much rather have had a different nature to that. I think a series actually that would probably be even more comparable and much better done all around would be something like Skip and Loafer. I think Skip and Loafer is even closer.
Skip and Loafer is so much of a higher bar for these sorts of series, though. You gotta
Yeah,
admit,
yeah,
like
but I
Skip
mean,
and
it's like
Loafer.
for me, it's like you kind of have to reach that at that point, right? Because
Yeah.
one of the main things here is actually, you know what? I'll loop back around to that with my score later. So I'll get onto the audio visuals now, which I think do carry this. The OST is pretty fun. There's some like weird poppy or electronic tracks that are in it that kind of stand out. They're not like incredible, but they're also not terrible. So that's okay. That's pretty fun. The visuals are probably the highlight. The chibi transitions with the character is cute. Suzuki's character design is nice. And that kind of really carries a lot of the stuff here, a lot of these scenes and a lot of the comedy. So I would say that's definitely the highlight. The visuals just overall I think are pretty nice. This is being done by Lapin Track. They've done Shoshiman series recently, the Undead Girl Murder Farce.
Mm-hmm.
They did like Watakoi years ago, so they don't have like a ton of work under their
They
belt.
have a good track. They have a
But
decent
this
track.
is yeah, and this is one of the better looking. I think this is the best looking stuff they've done, at least.
Mhm.
Hiccups here and there, but I think the character design is carried pretty throughout and looks nice, and the transition work is cute. So, and then there's some other stuff that they did that was pretty cool that I won't spoil anything because I do think it's at least worth watching with certain background stuff. Let's see. The EP is Megane wo Hazushite by Noah. The track is fine. Track is good. It's pretty even. It's pretty good track, like pretty fun track. The visuals are pretty nice because they do transition between several different styles at times, including a little cut with, or not several different styles. They do a lot of bits of what would you call it? Transitioning between character like holding up a phone camera and some sort of in media shots with that, which is nice. In there, there's just some cool stuff in the OP, and then one scene in particular where they have like a little Lego set scene with Suzuki and Tani, and it's like it is actual like two little Lego guys, which I thought was cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't
Almost
do a
like
ton with it,
stop
but
motion, like.
no.
Mhm.
So it's hard to explain what they did for it, but it's just like one little shot thing. But the fact that they were represented, like they had little Lego guys there for the shot was cool. If they did a stop motion thing with Lego, that would be cool. They did do a different thing at one point that I don't remember correctly. Yeah, I don't think it's like a stop motion thing, but they have a couple different like ideas in there to make it a little bit more interesting. A couple of live action things in there, which I think was
Okay.
a nice touch for an OP. The ED, I genuinely can't even remember the visuals. I remember it not being anything like too crazy, but it wasn't terrible. It's like not. It's just like whatever, right? At least for me, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, I don't really feel like. I mean, I'll pull it up for myself, but yeah, like I think the OP kind of just like blows it out of the water. In that sense, like kind
Yeah,
of
it's
really.
definitely this head and shoulders above. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what it is. It's like an isometric. It's got like this isometric CG thing going on, which is it's fine. It's got little chibi characters. I think it's a cool little ED, but the OP, I think with its different like live action shots and stuff is a little cooler. Has a little bit more going on.
Okay.
Let's see what else. I guess I'll get into a score. Now, I would probably give this a mall score, maybe like a 6. And that's primarily because I don't
Would you
think it's
recommend it? Is my question. Would you recommend it?
I mean, for me, a 6 leans more so on I'd recommend it if like you're looking for something like this, but it's not something that I think is like vital for you to get to, or if you aren't interested, even like really interested in the romance series to check out.
Right.
I don't think this is like a priority watch for this season, if anything, either. Right.
Okay, I see.
And the reason why is because I feel like for me, if these characters aren't going to have like Tanya especially is not going to have a much fuller personality, we're not going to get much more introspection. We're not going to get like a ton of stuff like that and a ton of interaction and sort of internal introspection with Tani. Like a romance series like this just does not interest me in that way, right? There needs to be more going on. There needs to be at least like some drama then, or the comedy needs to be insanely good. I think a much more what would you call it? Nah, because like I know I gave it a really high score, but I think the Invisible Man and his soon-to-be wife, like it needs to be something like that at least then, right? Because like the romance between the Invisible Man and his soon-to-be wife is not the most elaborate drama and introspection going on and stuff like that. But that series is also doing trivia. It has characters with very distinct, very full personalities. It does some drama, but again, it has like that trivia on with the demi-human stuff. It's got the investigation stuff every now and then. It's got some fun action and things like that, and a lot more of a full cast with relationships too that they can kind of bounce off of. And I think the comedic bits are more fun too because of the way it plays off of some of the trivia aspects of it as well. And then the trivia as well was nice.
Right.
So like for me to give a romance series this, it needs to have a much higher, like it has to have a higher bar, right? I don't understand.
Right.
And so like Maul has this sitting at Heading at an 8.13, or no, an 8.18, which, to put that into perspective, is literally 0.05 points higher than the first season of Bisque Doll of My Dress Up Darling, which
That's because they're the exact
I think
same. They both
you
have
have
Gyarus, bro.
to
That's
be
it's the same thing.
smoking fucking crack cocaine to think that this series holds a candle, should be within anywhere near striking distance of Bisque Doll, right? Because I haven't seen
feel like
season
this
2.
is.
I
feel
won't
like
lie, I
I
have
feel
not
like
caught up
these.
with season 2 yet. Season 1,
Yeah.
it's like, are you fucking
Yeah.
crazy? Season 1, just audio visuals blows it out of the water, comedic aspects blows it out of the water, and then character dynamics blows it out of the water. But primarily because Gojo, like Wakana Gojo, has a full character personality. He's not just like, oh, I'm gonna be like a stoic guy that like makes dresses for this girl, I guess. Like, he has a much more dynamic character and plays off of her much more, and other characters. And there's just like a lot of other aspects of the show too that are just superior. But in general, that's why I'm like, I think kind of crazy that the show has like an 8.18, and why I think like a 6 to like maybe a 6.5 is not like terrible, but it's like, again, I feel like if you're hitting an 8, like, this is something that you're going to people and you're being like, no, you have to watch this. Like,
yeah, exactly.
this is a standout this season. And I'm just
I feel like
I'm just sitting here.
I'm not
like,
gonna lie.
why? What?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the degenerates that are on my enemy list, like, because it's like you have to be a certain type of degenerate to eat, like, actually, in the year 2026 of our Lord and Savior, to go on and do it, like, kind of the type of scoring, right? To actually go through and do like thorough scoring of like all your series in my enemy list, and I feel like the degenerates on here now are just like they just like Gyaru. They just like Gyaru, so we all like Gyaru, but they especially like Gyaru, so they're like, yeah, we'll just get this higher score. And I feel like that's almost what's going on. Like, this is only half joking. I think they're just like, oh, it's a wrong color and it has Gyaru. Oh, thumbs up for me. 9 out of 10. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming to a TED Talk.
Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't understand how, because like I was saying this. I mean, I might have been saying this like 10 years ago at this point, and it's like it's 2026, the year of our Lord and Savior. We can't like the My Anime List reviews right now that are like, oh, okay, this series is like a fucking 10 out of 10. Why? Because the will they, won't they is done by the end of episode 1. And it's like, don't get me wrong, that gets bonus points, right? Like, that definitely shows me that your series is at least like might do something, but then it's like nothing else after that is like actually progressing that much. Like, there's really not a lot of like some of it's like progressing, like some is doing like some trivia, but I mean, this is no, like, their relationship, at least right now, is not like, they're not flushing it out the way what was the really good romance series that I got? I think I got like a second season, and then like maybe a prequel or like an ONA at one point that I covered.
Adachi Toshimamura? Adachi Toshimamura? Or what?
Yes, yeah,
Or
yeah.
no, it was. Okay, was it? Yeah, yeah.
Is it, what's the full title again for that?
I thought it was Adachi to Shimamura, right? Adachi and Shimamura or something like that. Is that what you were looking for? No, or no? No, it wasn't. It was something else,
What is
right?
it called?
It was like two. I know what you're talking about, but it's
No. That was the year Adachi Shimamura. That's a Yuri series.
no, that was yeah,
We're talking
it's
about
the one with like the yellow hair. One of them has yellow hair, right? If I remember correctly. Or no?
It's the one with the orange haired girl or brown haired girl and the guy who got the tattoos and the piercings and shit.
Yeah.
But then it's like he
yeah,
only really got those because like got pressured and stuff like that. Like, and that series has like a lot of relationship developments. I don't remember what the hell it's called though. I don't know why I can't remember it. I think it begins with an M.
Yeah,
Or
I know
or
it
one of
did
the
get
characters
like that
has
prequel for sure. Yeah.
M. Um, but yeah, so it's if I can remember what the hell that series is, it would be lovely. It had like like I said, it had like a second season not that long ago.
Yeah. And it did have that spin-off, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then it had and like I said, it had like a spin-off and stuff.
Horimiya? Horimiya? Horimiya?
Horimiya, yes, yo, Horimiya.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Wait, is it
Yes.
correct?
Hori-san
Am I
to
correct?
Miyamoto-kun. Yes,
Okay.
100%. Horimiya
Oh,
is
okay.
like
Okay.
again like one of the better if not best recent romance series of like pure romance
Yeah,
stuff.
Horimiya was very popular too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like that series as well is also like punching above. So again, for this series to be in striking distance of that, I'm like, I think you're like you folks are insane. And Horimiya does that too, but then like relationship actually like really develops, like really develops. Whereas I don't see how like I don't see this getting into the stuff that Horimiya does.
Mhm.
And even then, Horimiya, like I said, male lead is also a much more dynamic character and has like a lot more going on. So unless Tani turns around episode 6 and starts becoming like a much fuller character, I don't see it getting there. Which is unfortunate, but yeah, that's why I would
Yeah,
give
right
it like
now
a
it's a
6
little
through
bit too
6.5.
one-sided.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know, and that is the thing. Like this would if Tani was more of a character, this would jump to a for me like a 7 to an 8, like for sure if they're going off of each other like that. But I do feel like this is a really one-sided series, with a very not particularly interesting,
Yeah.
compelling male character. So definitely unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, uh, thank you very much, Dark. Again, a little bit unfortunate that the premise wasn't like the worst thing, and the setup wasn't the worst thing, but the fact that
No, it's like pretty
there's not as
standard. Yeah, and I think I might keep up with it. Just because it's like it's fun enough and it's an easy watch, but like I said, it's not something that I would recommend people like jump on because they're like desperate for a rom-com, because I don't think it
Right.
excels at in certain ways, in some ways.